All right, good morning, everyone. I think we're going to get started because I know students, you all have to get to class by 9, and we have a lot to cover, and I want to try and leave time for Q&A. So we're going to get started, and then if people trickle in, then of course that's just fine. I want to start off by saying thank you for braving the snow and the ice rain to get here this morning. I actually wasn't sure I was going to get here this morning, so you all would have had to do the presentation yourselves. But I'm really grateful that you all are here. I hope that this is worth your time. And this is really exciting for me because it's the official launch of me working with you all as juniors. So in the fall, I spend the majority of my time working with the seniors on their college applications, and that will be you all in a few short months. But as the calendar turns and as we enter second semester, my attention turns as well. So at this point, I'm really focused on you all as students and partnering with you as families. And so this is the official launch, and I'll share a little bit about all the opportunities that we have coming up to really help guide you through this college process. So my goals specifically for this meeting are, first of all, I want to establish a timeline with you for what's upcoming in the next few months and essentially through the end of next school year. So we're going to talk about this spring, then we're going to talk about the summer, then we're going to talk about senior year. And the reason why is because I think oftentimes as we're starting to think about the college process, this can be one of the biggest places that I get questions. When should I be doing this? Should I be filling out applications now? When should I be testing? And so I'm hoping that this helps establish an understanding of when you should be doing all these different pieces. The second thing is I want to discuss some frequently asked questions. I will do a lot more of this over the course of the next few months, but I want to hit some of the highlights that I think are valuable for you all now as juniors and junior families. So we'll talk about some FAQs, we'll review important resources, and finally, like I said, I promise we will have time for Q&A. So I want to start off by talking about this idea of the importance of teamwork and frame it in the metaphor of driving a race car. I think a couple of you that have had students come through Bear Creek have heard me talk about this, but I really encourage us to think about this college process like driving a race car. And why do you think this is the metaphor that I like? When you think about driving a race car, what are some words that come to mind? Yeah. Yeah, you have a pit crew. And what's a pit crew? Tell us what a pit crew is. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you have the driver, right, who's the one, they're steering, they're in charge of actually completing the race. But you have all these other people here who are the pit crew that are helping make sure that the car runs smoothly, that tires are changed, that the car's fueled. There's all sorts of things that they're doing. So if we think about the process this way, who's the race car driver? Raise your hand if you think you're the race car driver. No one? Okay, Samantha thinks maybe she's the race car driver. Come on, students, raise your hands. It's 8:06. You all are the race car drivers. This is your process. This is not my college process, and it's not your parents' college process either. You all are the drivers. You're the ones that will be making decisions. You're the ones that are going to be steering this process, but you're not doing it alone. So raise your hand if you think you're part of the pit crew. Come on, parents, do better. Awesome. Yeah, so if you're a parent, and myself too, I raise my hand. I'm part of the pit crew as well. So we are here to partner. So my goal is to partner with you all as parents to be part of this team that helps you as students walk through this process in a way that feels supportive, that feels like you have access to resources, that you have access to people that can help you complete this race in as seamless a manner as possible. So the pit crew is a big part of why I want to think about this process like driving a race car, but there's a couple other things. If you know anything about race car driving and races, what are some elements of what you think might relate to the college process? Anything else? That's exactly right, yeah. So there is a lot happening at once, and you have to make decisions in a timely fashion, right? You don't necessarily, I mean, you don't have to make a decision as fast as you would driving a race car, but yeah, there's a lot coming at you. Absolutely, yeah. That's exactly right. There's a finish line, right? This process doesn't go on forever. There is a defined start, and there's a defined finish as well. Anything else? So it's fast but predictable, which I think is the important thing to draw from those two things. What else? Anything else? Okay, those are the big things that I would say. We'll talk more about this. The other piece, the last thing I would say is that if you think about the process, although it's fast-paced, I want it to feel steady. So I don't want it to feel like a roller coaster where there's all these ups and downs, ups and downs. I want us to feel really steady and confident that we have a plan, we have a team, and that we can execute this process even though it can feel high stakes, even though it can feel fast-paced, that you have the resources to be successful, and that you're the driver, right? So if you think about a roller coaster, you're not in charge. You're just along for the ride, right? You have control in a race car. And so students, it's probably the only time that I'm going to suggest metaphorically that you think about yourself as race car drivers. Okay, so talking a little bit about the timeline, I want to linger on this first slide because this is where you all are at right now. Okay, so January through June, so this is encompassing the spring semester and the start of the summer. So a couple things that I would really recommend you do right now to prepare for the college process. The first is maintaining course rigor. So as you think about entering the second semester of your junior year, I would encourage you to continue to invest in being successful in your classes. Continue engaging in the classroom setting because you'll hear this often, and it is true, that colleges look with particular focus on your academic profile from your junior year. The reason why is that's really the most recent grades, the most recent course rigor, the most recent information they have to determine how successful you're being as a student. So making sure that you don't take your foot off the gas, that you really are continuing to invest academically as a student here at Bear Creek is really one of the most valuable things that you can be doing right now to set yourself up for college success. And the other piece of that classroom engagement is because most likely your junior teachers are who are going to be writing your letters of recommendation. There might be some exceptions to that. Sometimes it's a sophomore teacher. Sometimes it's a teacher that maybe you had freshman year that you have a continued relationship with through a sport. But a lot of teachers that you're going to ask to write your letters of recommendation are junior teachers. So you really want to make sure that you're investing, you're engaging in their classes, you're working hard, so that when they come to writing a letter of recommendation, they have that picture of how you've been as a student. In terms of courses for senior year, a couple of you have already had your junior meeting with me, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but we will also discuss senior course advising in that junior meeting so that you also feel set up for what you're taking senior year, because that's also valuable as well. But for now, keep working hard in classes. The second thing is continue investing and dedicating time to your activities. This, students, is the time to really invest deeply in what you're passionate about. So if you love sports, continue investing in that sport. Maybe look at an opportunity to volunteer at a summer camp for kids that focuses on that activity. This is not the time to sign up for 50 new clubs because you're worried, like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to put all this stuff on my college application. Colleges, they see through that, right? They understand if you signed up for 20 things, the end of your junior year, you're probably not doing it because you're really passionate about it. You're probably doing it because you wanted to be able to put it on your college application. That's not to say that if you find something new that you're really excited about, of course pursue that, right? I'm not saying don't try new things, But I want to encourage you, don't just start packing activities into your schedule because you're worried about the college process and talking about those things on your application. At this point, what colleges want to see is how you've invested in what you've chosen to spend your time on. So it could be athletics, it could be arts, it could be volunteering, it could be leadership. There's a million forms that could take, but I would encourage you deep at this point, not wide at this point with your activities. The third thing, and we'll talk about this at your individual meetings, but I want you all as parents and students to make sure this is on your radar, is this is the time to make sure that you have standardized testing on the calendar. And so if you haven't tested yet, students, an official SAT or ACT, that's just fine. If you have, that's fine as well. But I would strongly encourage you, you want to make sure you test at least once in the spring and plan to test at least one more time in the summer. I encourage students to test twice. You could test more than twice, but there does eventually reach a capacity. I wouldn't take the SAT 20 times, for example. But 2 gives you a good sample size for scores at a minimum. With the SAT in particular, if you're planning to take that, moving to digital format as well, there's a little bit of unpredictability as far as we don't know quite how those scores are going to translate. So I think having 2 bites of the apple is also valuable because of the new format of the test. And we are offering an SAT school day here at Bear Creek in the spring, specifically for juniors. That registration opened online just a couple days ago. So if you haven't registered yet, there'll be information on how to do that in our advising newsletter. I believe it also came out in the Bear Facts. If you can't find that information, let me know and I can always send that to you. But we are offering specifically for juniors an SAT here on campus. It'll be in the morning on a school day. And your teachers are aware of that, so they're working to make sure they're not planning assessments and other major, assignments, etc. On that day. You don't have to take the SAT here at Bear Creek, but we provide that as an option for you. Right now, we don't offer ACTs on campus, so if you're looking at taking the ACT, that's just fine, but you'll have to find a local testing center to do that. I'm happy to walk you through that process if you have questions about that. The next thing to be thinking about is, and I already alluded to it, is those teacher recommendations. So the rule of thumb for teacher recommendations is that you'll ask 2 teachers, and it's typically 1 STEM teacher and 1 humanities teacher, okay? So someone that's taught you in math and science or tech, and then someone that's taught you in one of your humanities classes. There could be exceptions to that, right? This is why it's so important. This is why the focus of this process is one-on-one advising. There may be a reason why you ask different teachers, but generally speaking, for most students, it's good to ask 1 STEM, 1 humanities. The reason for that is it gives the colleges a broader picture of who you are as a student. So they get both of those perspectives and not just focused on one area. Additionally, if you're really strong in one of those subjects, sometimes it can benefit you to have 2 teachers in that area, but a lot of times it's actually beneficial to ask for a letter of recommendation in a subject that you might have had some challenges with, but where you showed perseverance, where you showed dedication, where you worked really hard with the teacher to be successful, because those are all skills that colleges are looking for in applicants. Okay? And so you don't just want to ask the teacher where you feel like, oh, I did perfectly in your class. It's okay to ask a teacher where you might have struggled, where it wasn't the easiest subject for you, but that teacher can talk about how you've grown and how you've showed success, even when faced with some challenges. Please don't ask your teachers right now for letters. If you do, they should say wait. And the reason for that is that you will ask for those recommendation letters after spring break. Between now and spring break, I will be sending you all a message in the junior survey that students you filled out for me. One of the last questions is, who do you think are the teachers you would want to write you a letter and why? And I ask you to give me 4 teachers. I will take that information. I will also look at your academic profile. I'll look at what colleges you're thinking about, and I will communicate a recommendation to you of who you ask, okay? That is not a mandate, okay? So if you look at who I recommend you ask and you think, oh my gosh, no, I really want to ask this other teacher, we'll have a conversation about that, okay? I'm not telling you you have to ask the 2 teachers that I recommend. However, I do always have a reason why, and it might not be apparent. So I'll just give you one example. I'll pick on Mr. Norris. A lot of people want to ask Mr. Norris for a letter of recommendation. He's an English teacher, so you're like, okay, he writes good letters. He teaches the junior year students, okay? So he's good for a lot of students to write a letter, but there could be really strong reasons why actually asking one of the history teachers could be a really valuable option for you as well. So just because you hear a name and you're like, okay, I've heard they write really good letters. All of our teachers write strong letters of recommendation. And so we want to think about what fits you as a student. And that's what I'm there to help guide that process on. So students be anticipating that communication from me. That happens after I get the results of your junior survey. So it won't be immediate, but that will be coming down the line. And the other reason that this has helped streamline the process is the day after spring break, students were getting here at like 5:30 in the morning, 6 a.m., standing outside the teacher's doors, ready to ask for the letter because the teachers do have a maximum number of letters that we have them write. And so it was like a total mad dash, Hunger Games scenario, okay? And that's not good for you all. It's not good for the teachers. It's not good for anyone. And so by having this dialogue, you know who you're gonna ask before that happens. And I actually provide a spreadsheet to the teachers of who they can anticipate coming to ask them for a letter. And so it eliminates this sort of mad dash because the teachers already know who's coming, you already know who you're asking, and I've made sure that there's no teacher that would say no to a student, that we've balanced out all the letters of recommendation as well. So I hope that makes the process less stressful for you all as students and less stressful for the teachers as well. But that's after spring break. So right now, don't ask. If you do, the teacher should say no because there's a few things that need to happen. Next, right now, you should be working on solidifying your summer plans. The best way that I like to describe this is you should have a productive summer between your junior and senior year. What does that mean? That depends, right? That could mean doing an internship. That could be doing a job shadow. That could be doing a pre-college program or a summer program at a college. That could be spending some time traveling with family and friends. That could be volunteering in the community. There's a lot of forms that could take. And again, that's where it's individualized. Come talk to me. I'll have a conversation with you about what are some options. But you want to be doing something this summer that helps move you towards the college process. I recommend that you do look at visiting some colleges this summer, but you don't have to schedule your whole summer around college visits. If you're going somewhere as a family for vacation, go and see some colleges that are in that area. If you're staying local, we have the benefit of having some great types of colleges in the area. So there's small liberal arts, large research institutions, all within an hour, less than an hour drive of Redmond. And so go and see those schools. Even if they're not the ones you are going to apply to at the end of the day, they'll help you understand different types of colleges. So there's value in going to see colleges, but I don't recommend making your whole summer about college visits. Because I think there's other productive things you can be doing. And the reality is right now, you don't know yet where you're going to apply. And if you think you do, that's awesome, but I promise you, you don't. You will be making changes to your list. So productive summer. And for summer programs, I actually just saw this morning Brown just opened their pre-college program for the summer. So if you're looking at doing an internship or some sort of summer program at a college, those typically open in January and they close in March. There's some deviation from that, but that's the general window. So students, you need to be thinking about that now because you'll need to be applying to those programs sooner rather than later. Every year that I've worked with students, I'll have a student say to me in like May, okay, I'm ready to look at my summer plans. And at that point, we can find stuff, but the reality is most of the opportunities have closed. So make sure you're doing that now. The next thing is just an FYI. Students, you may already know this, but if not, I think it's valuable to know that you all will be working on the Common App essay as in your English class this junior year. So you'll have an opportunity to take a stab at that Common Application essay, which is one of the main, I would say the main essay in the college process. So take that opportunity seriously when it's offered by Mr. Norris. Work really hard on that assignment. But also know that that doesn't mean that's the final draft that you're going to turn into the colleges, okay? So I would recommend you revisit that in the summer, but it's an amazing resource that we offer here at Bear Creek that you're going to get feedback on that essay and an opportunity to start thinking about that in a class here at Bear Creek. And then meet with me. I've alluded to that. So students, all of you have received an individualized message from me, as well as a post in Teams that gives you access to the junior survey. That survey is really valuable, and I know it's long. I know it's long, but it provides a lot of really valuable information about who you are, what you're interested in, what you've done over the last few years as a student and as a person, and then what you're thinking about in a college, okay? So that is really valuable so that I can best advise you, right? If you just walk into the door and I don't know you, then my advice is not going to be as valuable. So once you fill out that survey, on the thank you for completing this survey page, you will find the bookings link to schedule your one-on-one meeting with me. Some of you have already done that and we've been able to meet. If you haven't, that's fine. There's not an urgency to do the survey, but I want you to know that you have that link and you have the ability now to schedule a meeting once you complete that. Last year I launched that at the end of January after this meeting, but I had a lot of juniors that were asking me, super eager, and so I decided to actually send that out over the Christmas break so that if you all had time over the holidays and wanted to get a head start on that, you could. The reason I say that is parents, you might be thinking, I haven't heard anything about a survey. What are you talking about? That's because I was planning to launch it after this meeting with the January newsletter to parents. But I decided to just give students a head start. So parents, you will be receiving information about it. Good news, you all have your own survey. The parents don't have to fill out their survey to schedule the meeting. So you all are a bit off the hook on that, but I do encourage you as parents to do the parent survey because I read through those and it can help provide some valuable family information for me as well. But you will be here, that's all a long way of saying, parents, you will be hearing about it, but I soft launched it early because I really wanted to serve you all as students, and I was hearing a lot of just questions about it and a lot of students really wanting that meeting as soon as possible. So that's why I made that decision. I do require all juniors to meet with me at least once. And it is a really important meeting, but you can meet with me as much as you want. I said to a couple students, you can meet with me twice a week until the end of the school year. We might run out of things to talk about, but truly, once you have completed that survey, that bookings link is populated with meeting times through the end of the school year, and you should feel that that is a resource for you as students and parents to meet with me, to ask questions. I'm available via email, via phone, via Teams for students, so I am at your disposal. Anything you need as far as meetings, getting information, know that you have that. And then the last thing to do is begin college research. We'll talk more about what that looks like at the one-on-one meeting, but you do want to start researching colleges right now. And I would encourage you, I joked about not having a college list settled right now, but I really do want you to not feel that you have anything set in stone right now. This is a time to explore, not a time to finalize your college list. I promise you that will come. And that will actually come with the next part of the timeline. So in July and August, you're going to be having your productive summer. I will be hosting essay workshops. Those dates will be coming out soon. We have an annual calendar meeting, all of us in the school that work here, to settle on dates for all of our events for next year. So I have to get approval at that calendar meeting, which happens in about a month. So once those events, the dates are approved, I will be publishing those. But no, I will be hosting essay workshops this summer. I will also be helping you by helping you create your preliminary college list. So this is when you are going to start narrowing in on your schools, and I will ask all families to meet with me again at least once over the summer. You may meet with me more than once, and I would encourage that if you can and you want that additional support, but we will have one required meeting over the summer as well, where we all sit down, where we start talking about the college list, the number of schools, strategy for applying, all of those pieces, because this is the timeline when you want to be doing that. On August 1st, the Common Application opens. If you want to get a head start on that, which I would encourage you to, then start filling that out. The Common Application is basically, it took the college process and really simplified it. So it used to be if you were applying to 5 schools, you had to go to all those colleges' websites, you had to fill out their application, and you had to fill out the same information. What's your name? What's your birth date? Who are your parents? What do your parents do? What's their education? I mean, you had to fill that out for every single school, right? And colleges all of a sudden started realizing, well, we're asking for 85% of the same information, right? So that's the idea of the Common Application is most colleges, not all, but most colleges are members, and so you fill out one general application with all your demographic information. That's where that essay that I was referencing comes in. You fill out activities, you fill out tons and tons of information, and then some colleges will ask you some additional what they call supplemental questions. But it's all on this online program called the Common Application. Do not start filling it out now. If you start filling it out now, you're applying for the fall. And none of you have graduated from high school yet. So this is one place, just be patient. You'll hear some people online saying, well, you can always start it early and then transfer it to the next school year. I would strongly recommend you not do that. I've had students who have tried that, and basically their account glitches and they can't access their Common App. And it's set by, you can't create 2 Common App accounts. It's not like, oh, well, I got locked out of that one, I'll just create a new one. That's not the way the system works. And so I've had students that's caused a lot of stress because they've had to delay the start of their application because there's a glitch with that rollover. So me personally, I just encourage you wait till August 1st. You've got a lot of other things you can be doing before then, and I don't think it's worth the risk of that rollover. But it is, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to start it now, you can, but don't apply to anywhere because you'll be applying for the fall. And then lastly, we talked about that, scheduling standardized testing. Okay, so that takes us through the summer. So then in September and October, I will have a senior meeting very similar to this, where I will give you sort of the next few bites of the elephant. This process can sometimes feel like drinking from a fire hose, to mix my metaphors, I guess, but I really want you to know that I will be providing all of the salient information as you need it in the process. So if we were to talk today about how to submit your documents, about where to file your college list, about the FERPA waiver, all of those things, you all would be looking at me cross-eyed, okay? But in the fall of senior year, you will need to know that information. So I really try and be strategic about what I share with you and when I share it with you. But I promise you, you will know things in advance of any decisions that you have to make. So put that meeting on your calendar for the fall. That'll be really important. The other things that you're working on in the fall are solidifying your college list. Colleges will start coming and visiting Bear Creek in September, as they have for the past few, many years. So last year we had over 100 colleges visit Bear Creek. If a college is on your list and they come to Bear Creek, I cannot stress this enough, you should be at that meeting. You should be at that meeting, okay? Now, if you have a test, if you have a soccer game, if you have something, obviously there's reasons why you can't be at that meeting, but if it's just you want to eat lunch with your friends, you don't want to wake up early to get there, these are the types of things that matter to colleges. It helps you learn about the school, but it also allows them to see that you're really serious and interested in their institution. Even if you visited the campus, still be at that meeting. If they come to Bear Creek, if that college takes the time and the effort to visit, you should be at that meeting. You'll also be working on applications, editing and receiving feedback on essays. So anything that you write for the college application process, I am happy to line edit it for you, okay? So this year, some of the seniors took me up on that wholeheartedly. And I've read, for one student, I've probably read 25 of their essays. These are some shorter supplemental essays for schools they've looked at, and of each of those essays, we've probably gone through 4 or 5 drafts of each one, okay? So if you want that level of support, I will provide that for you, and I'm happy to do that, okay? I won't write it for you, but I will give you feedback as someone that has read those essays before from a college admission standpoint. So I'm not giving you the feedback like you would get from one of your amazing English teachers. I mean, of course, I want to make sure it's grammatically correct, all those pieces, but my lens is what is the college learning from you via this essay. So I would strongly encourage you to take advantage of this, but it's also not required. So if you feel like I don't need feedback on my essays, I feel like I'm good, or I don't want that feedback, then that's completely fine as well. But I always want to emphasize it's a resource. What I will not do, though, is edit an essay at 10 p.m. when it's due at midnight, okay? So make sure that if you have things you want me to edit, that you get them to me earlier, the better, because then you'll have time. And to be completely honest, if you send me something at 10 p.m. and it's due at midnight, it's not good for you either if I edit it. At that point, you just need to send it. You just need to complete the application. So the earlier you send me things, the more feedback you'll receive on them. In the fall, you'll also decide, students, on if you're applying early action or early decision to a college. Again, right now you're not making that decision, but know that that will be coming down the line. And basically, both of those are different forms of completing early college applications. We'll talk more about that in the fall. You can ask about it at your one-on-one meeting, but for now, you don't need to know all those distinctions. Just know that in all likelihood, this senior class, all but one senior applied early to at least one college, okay? So in all likelihood, you'll be submitting an application in November, although it's not required. In the fall is also where you'll be reviewing potential scholarships and begin the financial aid application. Unfortunately for the current senior class, the federal government decided to make changes to the FAFSA, which is the federal financial aid document. So they had to wait until really now. The federal government has soft launched all of that information, and so that's unfortunate for the current seniors. We're working through it, but for you all, the good news is that application will open in the fall. So make sure you fill that out. So in November, as I said, if you're submitting early applications, you will submit those applications. You'll also continue working on all of your other applications and continue attending those college visits. Okay, then in December and January, continue working on applications. You'll complete your regular decision applications. Those are generally due in January, and you'll be submitting them as well. I am available over the Christmas break to help support students. I'm not available every day, but I do still provide essay feedback. I'm still here to answer questions. So please know that I don't go completely dark right before those deadlines. I think that's important for you all to know. Then in March and April, you all are just waiting. That's when you'll start receiving your decisions back from colleges. And then in May 1st is National Decision Day. That's the date when colleges will ask you for a response by. So by that date, you will have put down a deposit at one college, and that is your declaration of I will be attending this school in the fall. So a snapshot of some important dates. August 1st, the Common Application is live. October 1st, the FAFSA opens. November 1st through 15th, rule of thumb, early decision and early action applications are due. There are some southern schools that are earlier than that. November 15th is when the UW application's due. It's very early for a regular decision application, so it's important to keep that in mind. November 30th is when the UC apps are due. We have a lot of students that apply to UC schools. That's also an early regular decision deadline. So that's why I called those out. January, regular decision apps are due. March through April, college notifications, and May 1st, National Decision Day. So that's a lot of information. So what should you be doing right now? 3 things. Schedule your standardized testing, schedule your one-on-one meeting with me, and begin to research colleges. Those are the 3 things that, out of all that information we just talked about, if you can only do 3 things, those are the 3 things that I would recommend you do. So let's talk about some FAQ. The first is, how many colleges should I apply to? And again, this is my favorite answer in college admissions is it depends, right? Because this is a personalized process, and that is one of the benefits of being Bear Creek students is you all get one-on-one college advising. So that's what I'm here for. That is my full job, is to work with you on what your specific goals are, what type of school you want to go to, helping you, first of all, discern that, and second of all, find schools that match that, and then apply. So it's very hard for me to give an answer to this question because it really, really does depend. Okay, we have some seniors this year that are applying to 3 colleges. We have some seniors this year that applied to 1 college. We have some seniors that are applying to 12 or 13 colleges. Okay, so it's a big range in the numbers that students apply to, and it depends a lot on your goals and all those pieces. So the biggest piece of encouragement I can give you is be in communication with me, and I will give you a more specific answer for who you are and what your goals are for the future. But if you force me to give you sort of a rule of thumb, I would say 7 to 10 colleges is a reasonable size college list. I break down schools in 3 categories: safety, mid-range, and reach. Safety schools are schools where the academic profile of the student is stronger than their stated academic profile, mid-range academic profile as a college, okay? So colleges publish mid-range test scores, mid-range GPAs, and so if a student's profile is stronger than that, so they have a higher GPA, they have stronger test scores, they have stronger course rigor than what the college recommends, then that would be considered a safety school. We look at the academic profile of the student and also the acceptance rate. So it's those 2 things in conjunction. So safety schools generally have acceptance rates that are 50 to 60% or higher. Okay? So between the strength of the academic profile of the student and the school's acceptance rate, we can feel pretty confident that you are likely to get into that college as a student. There are no guarantees. So a safety school doesn't mean a promise of admissions. There are some colleges out there that have GPA cutoffs where they say if you have a 3.0, for example, you're automatically accepted. So those are the only guarantees. Otherwise, safety schools aren't guarantees, but they're where you know as a student you present a very compelling academic profile and that school has a high acceptance rate. Mid-range schools, you'll hear different words for that. You'll hear target is another word. I like to use the term mid-range because that is literally what it is. You are in their mid-range, okay? Your academic profile, your GPA, your course rigor, your testing is congruent with the published mid-range of applicants that the college has admitted historically. And additionally, their acceptance rate is in that mid-range. So generally, mid-range colleges have an acceptance rate of about 50% to about 30%, okay? So again, both those things together, it's going to be a mid-range college. And then reach schools, there's 2 types of school that end up as reach schools. The first is a school where the student's academic profile is below that mid-range, okay? So maybe their GPA is not quite as strong, or their test scores or their course rigor. Students can absolutely still apply if they're not at the mid-range, and I have seen over and over and over students get in when they're below the mid-range, okay? So just because you're not at their mid-range or above doesn't mean that you can't or won't get in, but it does tell you that within the applicant pool, you probably won't present the strongest academic profile that that college is seeing. So if that's the case, it would be a reach school. The other way that a college ends up as a reach school is if it has a 20% acceptance rate or lower. It doesn't matter if it's 20% or lower, you could be above their mid-range profile and it would still be a reach school. The reason why is because schools with 20% acceptance or below, so a lot of other colleges, if you're a highly qualified candidate, your chances of getting in are high, right? For reach schools that are 20% acceptance or lower, you could be a highly qualified candidate and not get in, and the likelihood of that is high. Does that make sense? So a school like Harvard, they get a lot of students that apply that meet their academic profile that are considered highly qualified applicants, and they reject a ton of those students. So we can't use academic profile as a predictor of your ability to get into that school, which is why those are automatically reach schools. So a rule of thumb, if we're thinking of 7 to 10 colleges, you want to have at least 3 safety schools, at least 3 mid-range schools on your list. And I typically say 3 to 5. And then you can fill out the rest of your list with reach schools. It is very common for students to lean towards the reach. So oftentimes preliminary college lists are 90% reach schools and then a couple other colleges thrown in. So part of my job is to help shape that list, help us think about how to balance that. And so again, it could vary depending upon the colleges you're interested in, but that would be the rule of thumb. The next question, should I test? The short answer is yes. I would encourage all of you as Bear Creek students, as I mentioned, to plan to take a standardized college test at least twice. There's a couple reasons for that. One is it's an important data point as we look at college profiles, as I just talked about. But more importantly, some colleges are test optional for this admission cycle, but they haven't yet declared what they will be for next admission cycle, okay? And they will make that decision in the summer, well, at the end of the spring, okay? So if a college switches, suddenly they were test optional, suddenly they're requiring tests, you don't wanna be in a pickle, right? So having the test scores will never be wrong to have those, and then you may or may not send them to your colleges. At the end of the day, you may not send them, and that's just fine, but it's really important to have those scores in your back pocket. They also, some colleges require testing for scholarships, so they may not require it to apply, but if you want to be considered for their merit scholarships, you have to submit test scores. So there's a lot of reasons why, but the short answer is yes, you should test. If you send your scores, that's a conversation we'll have in the fall, okay? What do colleges look for in students? So the good news for you is I just did a presentation on that a week and a half ago. So, I spent an hour talking about that. So we're not gonna have an hour to talk about that today, but I would boil it down to colleges are looking for students that match their mission. Okay? And I would encourage you, if you didn't attend that presentation, I have the link to that. So the recording's actually on YouTube. You can just find it yourself, or I can send you the link, and that will go much more in depth. However, what I would also encourage you to do is, as students and as families, instead of, sometimes we focus on what the college is looking for. What can I do? What does the college need to see from me, right? I would encourage you, so that's very much a mentality if you're thinking about it from the college perspective. I would encourage you to flip that script and think about, what am I looking for in a college? What does a college need to have for me to feel like it would be a good environment for me? So that takes the power of this process and reminds you that ultimately you're the one that gets to choose where you go, right? And that's also something you can control. And I guarantee you, if you think the college is a good fit for your goals, there's a high likelihood that the college would feel the same way and that it will be a good match and that will resonate with the college. But again, if you want to know more about this, I get this question a lot. That's why I did that presentation, but we won't have time to talk about it all today. So I just want to remind us, we are working together, parents, you and I are partnering to help you all as students become the individual God intends by guiding you through this college process. So that's my role in Bear Creek's mission, is really to help guide you through what happens next when you graduate from Bear Creek. And there's a lot of ways that we do this. These are just a list of some of the most salient resources. One-on-one advising is the core of this process. You've heard me say that now 5 or 6 times. Please reach out to me, ask questions, meet with me as much as you want. I am here to help, and I want to help, and I love working with students. That's why I'm in this role. And parents, I'm partnering with you, so please feel free to reach out, ask questions. I'm here to help. Students, you all, at the start of the year in September, were added to a college advising team, and there's a specific channel for your grade, class of 2025. And if you haven't been making that your favorite page on Teams, it should be now. That's where I will be posting tons of updates. I've already posted summer opportunities there. I actually already posted the survey there, posted a ton of information there. So make sure you're checking that frequently. That is a mechanism by which I will provide updates for you all as students when I can't meet with you one-on-one and I need to provide some information to your class. Parents, if you all haven't been reading the monthly newsletters that Aileta and I have been sending out, please do so. We spend a lot of time thinking strategically about topics that we get questions about a lot, and then we research those, we share information with you all to best partner with you in this process and to provide some education and support. You can also find, if you've been missing those, they're archived on the school website, so you can always go back and read previous editions. And then the events, these events, so Finding Your Best Fit College I did in the fall, and then Tools for Success, that's the event I just mentioned, those have both been recorded. So if you missed either of them and you want that content, please let me know and I'll provide that. Students, I also will meet with you during class time and assembly time. Mrs. Promo and I have an assembly in February to talk about course advising, and I'll be meeting with you multiple other times over the course of your senior year. And then Naviance. Naviance will be the platform that you use to research colleges and ultimately to apply to colleges. So now's a good time to start familiarizing yourself with Naviance. I know at this point a lot of you have not spent much time there, and that's just fine. But now is the time, and in our one-on-one meeting, I'll show you some techniques for researching colleges on Naviance. So know that that is coming. Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, so I want to wrap up by talking about what resources I provide as part of the PIT crew, what resources you as parents provide as part of the PIT crew, and students, you as the race car drivers, what the expectations are for you in this process. So what our roles and responsibilities are. So for me, I'm here to help you as students shape your college list. Talking about that mid-range, reach, and safety, I'm here to help you make those determinations, here to help provide essay edits and feedback, and I'm here to help walk you through every step of the process. I'll review your common application before you submit it. I'll continue to review your college list with you. I'll help you think about continuing to research schools, look for scholarships, all of those pieces I'm here to help with. I also submit all of the school documents on your behalf. So I submit your transcript. The teachers write the letters of recommendation, but I actually submit them on their behalf. There's a school profile that I fill out that gives colleges information about Bear Creek as a school. So I produce all those documents except for the teacher recommendations, and then I submit all those documents as well on your behalf. I also write a letter of recommendation for every single Bear Creek senior. The average time that it took me to write a letter for the current senior class, if I take into account all the research that I did, all of the information that I gathered, and then actually writing the letter, was about 5 hours per letter. Okay, I take this process very seriously. This letter is my opportunity to share with the college about who you are within the context of your class and within the context of Bear Creek. Okay, that survey that you're filling out, that's partly why it's so in-depth. I also talk to your teachers, so I get a sense of who you are through them. There's a lot of information from Veracross that I can get. I also have some other resources that I look at, so I do a lot of research to get to know you before I ever sit down and start writing that letter. However, you may be sitting here thinking, I'm not sure Ms. Gomulkiewicz knows me that well. And that is why I would also encourage you, meet with me, get to know me, because the better I know you personally, the more I can include that in the letter. If you don't spend a lot of time meeting with me, that's okay. I will still write you a really strong letter. I will use those other sources to provide the college with a contextualized picture of who you are within the context of Bear Creek, okay? But if I know you, then I can add in some of those personal details as well. So get to know me. I would love to get to know all of you, and I look forward to that. And that letter, like I